Alright, good day and welcome. This is my weekly presentation for the week ending September 3rd, 2022. So I set about the week trying to understand more what creation of API entails using C# on .NET Core framework. So first of all, I needed to understand what each of these various folders do and their respective relevance. So it turns out that all of these folders could actually be collapsed into one, and each of the various files collapsed into one particular folder, and everything will still work normal, but then it doesn't make your code neat and it doesn't enhance the principle of separation of concerns, so which is actually not really a good practice to do. So it is necessary we create each of these various files and add them into their respective folders, and in the course of creating these folders, they need to have my contextual meanings. Okay, so by contextual meaning, it will be out of place to have a product controller and then you are adding it into, say, a model. Okay, or you have a products model and then you are adding it inside a controllers folder. So each of the various files or classes should also be added to their respective folders, where it will make much sense to even a 2-year-old that is reading your code. So, and then we have the repository, okay, which is more or less what is helping us to carry out the various actions. Okay, so and then we have the startup.cs folder, where you specify all of your actions and methods that should be carried out on runtime. So that's what is that. So basically, when you create a new what do you call it now, microservice, you generally do not have a migration folder. So the migration folder is also generated for you by the Nugget package manager. So when you are done with your code and then you want to run it, so you just go to Nugget package manager and you open the Nugget package manager console. So on the console, when you type add migration, so what this does is that what add migration does is that it creates more like a connection to the database for you. So all of your fields or all of your tables that were listed in your repositories are then created, okay, and then after you do your add migration, so this migration folder is also generated for you and a migration is added. So like in my case, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different migrations. Okay, so all these migrations are created for you. So where this is the timestamp as well as the date, so these are the date and timestamp of the migration, and then it is appended to the name of the migration you created. So if I say add migration and I say new products, okay, so what this will do is to create a new migration here for me and call it, this should be hyphenated, or so, and it will call it new products here for me. So, and after that, the next thing you need to do is update database. Okay, so when you update database, the tables and the various fields in that tables are being updated on the database and everything works well. So that is that for that. And one other thing I noticed was, let's go back to the tools. So we have our Nugget package manager. So this is more like a store, if you like, or generally a package manager for the project. So this is where you can install your respective dependencies. Okay, so assuming I want to do install this now, so I'll just have to come here, select on it, add it to my project, and then choose the version I want to install, which should always be in relation to the version of .NET I am working with. So I'm working with 5.0.0. So if I actually want to install this, I'll just go ahead and click install, but I'm not installing this, so I'll just have to close this. So that is that. So one other thing I would like to point out here is let me go to the models. Let me just climb this models. So we have the student product model. So Okay, let's look at the student model. So here we have these are the various properties of the student. So it is expected that the student will have an ID, student will have a name, will have a gender, or belong to a particular class. So in the model, these are where we define our entity. So this could actually be called entity as well, or you create a different folder inside of the model and call it an entity, where you have your product entity and your student entity. So these are the properties. So one thing I also notice is when you've already added migration and you've updated your database and then you run it, okay, and then you run it, it runs well. So if for any reason I decide to say, okay, I want to add another property of students, say for example, say yeah, I'm on here, say public, so if for example I want to add, say, public on string email, okay, email, so I give it a get and a set. Smiles they carry me go here, I don't know. So I give it a get and a set. If I give that a get and a set, okay, so if I do this, yeah, so if I do this and I save my code, I have to go back to my Nugget console manager and then do add migration again and then update the database before all of this will be affected. If not, when I run that, I will run into an error from my code side. So that is that. So I'm just going to go ahead and run these and go to the interface. So okay, first off, I'm just going to add a product. So let's say try this out. So I'm just going to call this, let me give it a random ID 1, Stallion Sylvester, and then 77777 strings attached. So I'm just gonna save this, and then I have here product created successfully. So when I do get all products, so this one doesn't really need a parameter, so I get all products, so I have this was the last product was created. So I can also go back and say delete product. So delete product will require me to add an ID. So let me add ID of 1 for the product that was just created recently, and product was deleted successfully. So if I go to get products and I execute again, so I realize that 1 is gone. So basically that's all for now. I hope you see this and you love this. Thank you very much.